Hi friends, I welcome you all to today's discussion pertaining to finance related current affairs for upcoming RBI Grade B examination, and the topic which we are going to decode today in the form of MCQs is the recent RBI circular which is titled as Legal Entity Identifier extension of deadline. So today in the form of MCQs we are going to discuss what the circular has to say, and also we are going to discuss some key aspects with regard to this legal entity identifier code. So friends, now let's start discussion on some of the important MCQs which can be framed out of this particular topic. So starting with the first question, legal entity identifier code has options are 10 digits, 15 digits, 20 digits, 30 digits, or none of the above. So let's talk about legal entity identifier code, LEI code. So friends, LEI code has been conceived of as a key measure to improve the quality and accuracy of financial data systems for better risk management post the global financial crisis. Now, if you just talk about this legal entity identifier code, you can easily make out that this is going to be a unique identity code which is going to be allotted to different legal entities. Now, this is going to be a global code and this is going to be unique for you across the entire world. So we are going to allot this code to different entities who are going to transact in the financial market, so that we can keep a track on those entities through this legal entity identifier code. So you can understand it as a code which is going to be allotted to different financial entities so that we can track those different financial entities across the globe. Any transaction done by them across the globe, this can be traced through this particular code. Now this is going to be a 20 character unique identity code assigned to entities who are parties to a financial transaction. Globally, the use of this code has expanded beyond derivative reporting and is being used in areas related to banking, securities market, credit rating, market supervision, etc. So this code has now encompassed all the financial domain and it is being increasingly used in different areas. So a pretty straightforward question this was, and we have understood that this particular code, it has 20 digits. So clearly the answer to this question is going to be option number C. Next question, for the organization, legal entity identifier code or LEI will, options are, serve as a proof of identity for a financial entity, help to abide by regulatory requirements, facilitate transaction reporting to trade repositories, all of the above or none of the above. Now let's learn some more important points about this legal entity identifier code or LEI. So friends, this LEI is a global reference number that uniquely identifies every legal entity or structure that is party to a financial transaction in any jurisdiction. So basically this is going to be a global code and it is going to be applicable across the world. You have obtained this code in India, this code is going to be valid across the globe. Now the legal entity identifier India Limited LEIL is going to assign these codes to any legal identity, including but not limited to all the intermediary institutions. So what all institutions are going to obtain this code? So banks, mutual funds, partnership companies, trusts, holdings, special purpose vehicles, asset management companies, and all other institutions which are parties to a financial transaction, they will be required to obtain this particular code as per the RBI guidelines. Further, this particular code is going to be assigned on application from the legal entity after due validation of the data. For the organization, this code is going to be serving as a proof of identity. So this is going to be basically a sort of an international financial Aadhaar. This is going to be a proof of identity for a financial entity across the globe. It is going to help to abide by the regulatory requirements. The regulatory requirements, they want you to obtain this code, and if you want to abide by those requirements, you have to obtain this code. You would also have to do some reporting to different bodies, to different regulators, and this is to be done quoting your LEI code. So this is going to also facilitate transaction reporting to the different trade repositories. So friends, based on the discussion in the previous slide, now we can easily answer that this legal entity identifier code is going to serve all these purposes for the organization: proof of identity, abide by regulatory requirement, and to facilitate the transaction reporting. So clearly the answer here is going to be option number D. Next question. Legal entity identifier India Limited is. Options are wholly owned subsidiary of the Clearing Corporation of India Limited, wholly owned subsidiary of the Reserve Bank of India, a local operating unit for issuing globally compatible legal entity identifiers in India, both A and C, both B and C. Now let's talk about obtaining LEI registration. So friends, legal entity identifier India Limited, LEIL. This is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Clearing Corporation of India Limited. This is completely owned by, this works under Clearing Corporation of India Limited. It acts as a local operating unit for issuing globally compatible legal entity identifiers in India. So basically, if you have to get this legal entity identifier code in India, you have to approach this legal entity identifier India Limited, because this is the local operating unit, the local branch which you have to approach to get this code, which is going to be globally compatible. This registration that you obtain is going to be valid for only 1 year from the date of the issuance or your renewal. You have to annually renew your registration. You simply have to obtain it once and you have to renew it annually. So annual renewal is must in case of this registration. Further, in case you are eligible participant, you have to obtain this LEI code. You were required to obtain this LEI code, but you failed to obtain the registration till the due date. Then it has been specified that in consequence of the failure, authorized dealer bank and RBI shall not be able to honor any kind of banking transactions of the defaulter eligible participant till the LEI is obtained. So if you have defaulted in obtaining this code and you visit any authorized dealer bank or RBI, then that bank or RBI is not going to honor your financial transactions, honor your banking transactions if you continue to default. Now friends, as we've already discussed in the discussion to the previous question, that this legal entity identifier India Limited, it is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Clearing Corporation of India Limited, and it is also a local operating unit for globally compatible LEI codes in India. So clearly the answer to this question is going to be option number D. Next question. LEI registration is valid for. Options are 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, indefinite period, or none of the above. So friends, as discussed on the previous slide, we can easily answer that this LEI registration is to be renewed annually. This is valid for 1 year. So answer is option A. Next question. For companies that have a net worth of up to INR 2000 million, the RBI through its circular dated 27 March 2020 has extended the deadline of obtaining LEI for non-derivative markets to. Options are 30 September 2020, 31 October 2020, 30 November 2020, 31st December 2020, or none of the above. So friends, this is the current circular which was there in news recently dated 27th March 2020, legal entity identifier extension of deadline. So this circular, it says that a reference is invited to the circular dated November 2018 issued by RBI on requirement of legal entity identifier for participation in the non-derivative markets. So a prior RBI circular required that if you have to participate in non-derivative markets, you have to obtain this LEI code. And further, it also invites a reference to the circular dated April 26, 2019 on the timelines for implementation of LEI for non-derivative markets. So a circular was issued in April 2019, which talked about the different timelines by which different entities with different net worths, they have to obtain their LEI registration for participation in the non-derivative market. Now this was to be accomplished in 3 phases. Now based on the feedback and the request received from the market participants in the context of difficulties arising from the outbreak of the novel coronavirus disease, and with a view to enabling smoother implementation of the LEI system in non-derivative markets, the timeline for implementation for phase 3 is extended as under. Now, the entities which fall in the different phases with different networks, they were required to obtain this LEI code as per their own timelines. Now, in first and second phase, different entities, they were already covered. Now, in the third phase, net worth of entities up, which is up to rupees 200 crore, they were required to obtain the LEI registration by 31st March 2020. Now, this deadline is being extended to 30th of September 2020 in the wake of COVID-19 crisis. So basically this is what this circular has to say. But to understand this circular, we have to understand all of these related aspects as well pertaining to legal entity identifier code, which we have already discussed. So friends, as discussed on the previous slide, we can easily answer that the companies which have net worth up to INR 2000 million, they are required to obtain the LEI for non-derivative markets now up to 30th September 2020. So clearly the answer to this question is going to be option number A. So here we end this session. Thank you friends for watching this video and stay tuned for more updates.